Hello, everyone. This is Rayan from Geek Express, and it is my pleasure to have with me Thea Myhrvold from GetBEE. And today we're going to discuss STEM education. The topic is about to discuss the impact of STEM education on future jobs, the employment, the status of STEM education in the MENA region, and how it's going to evolve and what is its effect on the future of employment in the coming years. It's a pleasure to have you there.
Lovely to be here. Thank you for hosting me today.
Okay, Thea, let's get straight to the point. So if I want to talk about STEM and STEAM, what does STEM mean for you? Or what do you think the best definition for STEM is?
That's a very good question. I think when it comes to technology, as we know, the foundations that are changing the world that we live in and, changing the jobs of tomorrow, I think STEM education is really the foundation or the building blocks for that. And I think it's about learning theories, it's about learning logic, it's about learning how to adapt with things that are always changing. So having those building blocks and having that foundation, this is really important. So that's how I see STEM education as a building block really for the future of tomorrow and the future jobs of tomorrow.
Okay, that's super. But if you talk about STEM as a concept that combines science, technology, engineering, and math all together as a way of thinking, of solving problems, of tackling new problems by combining all of these topics together. Why do you think key people, professionals in the field are talking about the necessity to add A to the subject? Why do we need arts inside STEM to become STEAM?
Very good point. The creativity, STEAM is very logic-based and sequence-based and math and everything else. But when it comes to creativity and having different perspectives, sometimes you get the best ideas when you're not in the workplace necessarily, right? It might be you're doing something creative. So having that creative impulse is still very important to shape how you're building things, how you're thinking of things, and seeing solutions to different problems while still using that STEM base. But it's having that ability to think creatively, to be free, to express yourself in different ways through art and other creative projects that might help you find or crack that code that you're looking for, or build that algorithm that you want to build. So I think having that creative input is also really key to problem solving, because as we know, technology keeps changing. It's not linear, it's exponential. So the solutions that we have to have need to be creative solutions. They're not predefined. So having that creative impulse is definitely very key.
Definitely. And I think I read an article that key artists in the previous in history were actually scientists at heart. So when Leonardo da Vinci actually drew the Mona Lisa painting, it had actually some mathematical functions in it that made it appealing for the eye.
Exactly. So it's all very linked, right? So
yeah,
definitely.
Okay, and Thea, okay, given that we highlighted the importance of STEM and STEAM as a way of thinking and its importance for solving tomorrow's problems, where do you think we stand now in our current educational systems, especially in MENA? How far are we from it? Especially that I know some schools in MENA region are already teaching science, we already teach engineering, we already teach math, and some schools are adopting technology as a standalone subject to be taught. Are we really teaching STEM, or is it different?
That's a very good question. Of course, the schooling system when it comes to private and public schools and in the MENA region is very varied. So it is very different from school to school. But as I would say, as a general, there's this trend all over the world, not just in MENA, where there is this focus on technology and those building blocks as we spoke about. And I think what's interesting is the demographic of parents is changing, right? We have younger parents now who are also more open to technology and understand the importance of technology. And if anything, COVID-19 has also taught us that education can also be done remotely through technology. So everyone is sort of embracing this technology, digital transformation change. But if we look at the demographic of parents, which is very important when it comes to emphasizing their children's education or kids' education today, they're becoming a younger demographic that are more open to tech. So I think this is going to just grow more and more, and the openness and willingness and wanting to do like coding boot camps, learning how to code, STEAM and STEM, I think there's going to be more demand from it from a parent's perspective. And I think that's the demographic shift that's going to happen in the next few years.
Okay, Thea, so we were talking about education and how a lot of schools are already adopting technology within the schooling system and are adopting STEM. Do you think,
Yes.
if I want to say, do you think that curriculums of traditional subjects will change? Do you think we need to teach math differently, science differently, physics differently? We need to think about the whole schooling system in a different way.
Traditional education hasn't changed for a long time. We're still teaching in a very sort of one-to-many approach in a classroom. While some schools are adapting new techniques and blended learning methodology, it's still very traditional in the way that we are teaching, and traditional schools haven't changed for many years. I think if we look at, learning from an early age, sparking curiosity and sparking interest through blended adaptive learning through use of technology will be very interesting. Also, the way we take exams, get assessments, do things will change, right? Because the way we interact in the workforce is also changing. So having that from a very early age, I think, is key. Now, if you also look at higher learning, I think the fact that we'll have shorter, more timed courses for continuous learning will be super key in terms of the jobs of the future. If you look at traditional careers like marketing, if you graduated from a marketing degree 5-10 years ago, the marketing world looks very different today than it did just a few years ago, with the growth and changes that are happening in social media, paid advertising. It's more about data and trends rather than just creativity. So I think these shorter, more on-demand courses for continuous learning will be super relevant in all industries as technology is truly changing all of our lives.
Super. And to continue based on your answer, we're talking about the job market, right? And everybody is talking about the technology and how it is accelerating the world. It is governing all industries. Are we heading into a job market that is ruled by engineers and scientists, or can technology scale across all industries and all professions?
I think technology is scaling across all industries and all professions, and it's more of a learning of how to work in a symbiotic relationship. So if you look at healthcare, which is obviously very people-centric, you have AI and algorithms or machine learning that can detect cancer with 99% accuracy and just make the doctor's work more efficient. So how can you find technology as tools to complement the things that you do, and where human centric or human needs are a focus, right? So instead of doing lots of paperwork and bureaucratic things, what can we automate? When it comes to, for example, law, again, very people-centric, but maybe there are tools that can automate contracts. So I think every industry, no matter what industry you're in, will be impacted by technology. So having those industry experts is still very important, and understanding where a people-centric or a person-centric approach is needed will still very much be valuable. But also technology and engineers need to understand these different industries, right? Healthcare is very different to education, to law, to retail. So industry-specific experts are definitely needed to work in parallel with engineers and technology specialists as well.
Super cool. But in general, I know that a lot of students, high school, university students are actually going to watch this video. So I just want to ask you, what should they do? How should we prepare for what's coming next? Should we study a specific subject? Should we go into a specific profession or a university major? Or should we just follow a STEM learning approach? What is it exactly that will make us, I don't want to say employable, because we're talking about also there is the trend of entrepreneurship now. So what is it that will make me prepared to be ready for what's coming next?
It's a very good question. And I don't think you can ever be 100% ready. But for me, for example, if we take my journey, I studied international relations and economics. So absolutely nothing to do with tech, although there is a lot of statistics in economics. But for me, it was really understanding where my passions or where the sort of focus of the impact that I wanted to do was. And that was through public service and doing good. I found a different path, which was through technology for good and sort of scaling educational impact that led to other things through building one of the first apps for high school students. And it was through that experience that I had my first truly interaction with tech, where I learned how to design, build, and market an app on the App Store. And this is when, back in the day when apps were really new, back in 2011, 2012, I had no experience in technology. But that was my sort of entrance to it. So I would say it's never too late to learn about technology, and don't worry too much about finding the perfect sort of path. But I think it's important to figure out what's important to you. Is it healthcare? Is it law? Is it tech? Is it science? Is it research? There's so many potential avenues. Is it marketing? Is it retail? There's so many things that you can learn. I would say it's really important to figure out what's important to you and why. And then technology, or how you can use technology, you'll figure that out along the way as well. So focus on what's important to you first, and then you'll figure the rest out.
Super cool. That's a super cool advice. But also following your answer on this, so I want to talk about sustainability, right? You're talking about youth following what they want, and in parallel, we are heading into big problems that are facing the world. Currently, we're living in a big pandemic. And in 2050, 2060, we are talking about food security, climate change, all of these stuff. So how do we combine what we love to do, STEM skills, and sustainability goals, meaning performing or embracing a mission towards a sustainable agenda?
Very good question. I think for me, going back to some of the conversations we're having, STEM is also about problem solving. And when it comes to the SDGs and the things that we're problem solving for around sustainability, it's how can we use those creative skills that we're learning to find what I like to call is tech for good, or technology for good. So it could be physical technology, so machines or IoT or these things, or it can be software, right? But technology for good, there are so many different solutions. Like I've seen a software app recently, which is all about food waste, where all the restaurants in the different networks that are linked to it sell food waste that they can't sell the next day because it won't be deemed fresh. So instead of just throwing it away, you can buy it at 90% off. And they've collected thousands and thousands of meals all over Europe. So it's really interesting to see how a software app could be a solution for food waste in this case. I've also seen some amazing solutions when it comes to ocean. So it's really interesting and inspiring to see this new wave of entrepreneurship and technology for good around sustainability. So again, going back to what I said earlier, find what's important to you. Are you really passionate about ocean? Are you really passionate about energy and solar? Or other forms of energy. I think there's so many opportunities within sustainability that aren't just commercially viable, but really important for the future of our planet and for the future of humanity as well. So it's a very exciting space with a lot of opportunities.
And if I want to ask about, also to return back to the subject of employment, or even the future job market, do you think that your idea of technology for good is going to be adopted by companies, corporate, in terms of hiring agenda or their employees, prospects? Is it something that they will look at in terms of skills?
I hope so. And I think there is a big trend of, merging profit and purpose. And the traditional sort of CSR approach that a lot of big corporates and enterprises have, they understand that it's not, a lot of it was just for PR, but now it's really about the future. So if you see these massive brands like McDonald's switching from plastic straws to paper straws, there's a reason for that. Yeah. Not only is it because it's a good press campaign, but actually in the long run, when plastic becomes more expensive, it's more sustainable and cheaper for them to use alternative kinds of straws, right? So there is a commercial reason behind it as well. But I definitely think that there are smart ways to combine profit and purpose, and the best companies, they will see that, they will capitalize on that, and they will attract top talent based on that. So I think it's really important to also look at a company's values. when you're looking to interview with a company. That's something that we're very powerfully, promoting and very strong about is, our vision and our values. And you can really tell when companies are value driven and when they're not. So I would really recommend for anyone looking for, jobs or looking at the job market, also look at a company's values, and in an interview process, ask them about their values and give them examples, or ask them for examples of how they live by their values. I think this is really important.
Okay. Thea, before we close, I just want to ask you if any last advice. I'm sure you shared a lot of advice now. Any last advice for our youth?
Oh, so many things. I think the most important part, as I said before, is really find out what's important to you, and you'll figure it out along the way. And once you get started, just keep going. There are so many opportunities. There's so much potential, although it might feel a bit overwhelming, but there's so many opportunities to do things like tech for good and find creative solutions. So I'm very inspired to be a part of this conversation today, and hopefully we'll hear you talking about the amazing things that you've built one day in the future as well.
Hey, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
See you soon.
See you soon.